Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, so today we're digging into the sources curated by the Pythonist programmer, our software engineering psychic. She's highlighted some really intense developments from, was it September 2nd to the 25th, 2025? Just a few weeks.
Yeah, and those few weeks, wow, they paint a picture of an industry almost warring with itself. I mean, the sources point to this massive conflict, right? You've got big tech dealing with serious internal anxiety, burnout, fear, that kind of thing. But then externally, they're facing this absolute, firestorm of political heat and national security worries.
And all this while they're still shouting from the rooftops that AI is the magic bullet for everything.
Exactly.
So our mission today really is to cut through all that noise. We want to pull out the actual insights, understand how AI is really impacting labor, how it's shifting political power, and frankly, forcing some urgent ethical questions.
Yeah.
Because the key thing seems to be this huge disconnect, this gap between what tech leaders say AI does, driving efficiency and what they actually do.
Yeah.
Which involves, well, some pretty controversial hiring and a lot of political maneuvering.
Mm-hmm. And if you zoom out, you're basically watching the rule book for global tech power get rewritten in real time. And what's surprising is how much seems driven by, frankly, corporate FOMO fear of missing out and maybe even panic rather than, solid long-term thinking.
Okay, so where do we start unpacking this?
Well, let's start where it hits hardest first.
Right.
The engineers, the people actually building this stuff.
Right, inside the companies. This definitely falls into our neurocomplexity and burnout category. Because the folks building these tools, they are feeling the strain. We saw one report, LeadDev, I think, surveyed hundreds of engineering leaders.
Yeah.
Get this, 51% view AI's overall impact negatively.
Negatively, wow.
Yeah, and maybe even more worrying, their teams feel less motivated now than they did just 12 months ago.
And you can kind of trace that back, can't you? It seems to stem from these, sensationalist predictions coming from the top. People like Mark Zuckerberg saying AI will replace mid-level engineers this year. Or Anthropic's CEO talking about a 10 to 20% unemployment spike. That creates panic.
Right. The CEOs stir up this hype hurricane, and then the engineers down the line have to deal with the actual messy reality. Leaders start thinking AI is some kind of, magic wand. A plug-and-play thing.
Yeah, expecting it to just wipe out all the manual tasks or even replace whole teams overnight.
Which just sets those teams up to fail, doesn't it? Because the expectations are completely out of whack with what the tech can actually do right now.
Totally. And this brews up a very specific kind of burnout. The source material really zeroes in on this, especially for highly analytical people. They use the term gifted in neurocomplex minds. And their burnout isn't from having too much work necessarily.
Okay, so what's it from?
It's from this constant nagging pressure of potential, this unmeasurable weight.
Wow. So even rest isn't rest. It becomes like another performance metric.
That's exactly it. It's described as an internal interrogation of worth during downtime. If you're not actively producing something amazing with your brain power right now, you feel like you're wasting it. It's cognitive guilt.
That sounds exhausting. Not physical exhaustion, but mental.
Precisely. The fatigue comes from this internal battle to live up to some impossible ideal of what an AI supercharged engineer should be.
Okay, so that internal pressure cooker, trying to justify AI's hype, it bleeds directly into the external political fights, right?
Yeah.
Which puts us squarely in global tech politics. Leaders are talking efficiency and AI-driven workforce changes, but their actual labor decisions are getting hammered.
Oh, yeah. This is where that whole H-1B visa controversy just exploded in September. You had Senators Grassley and Durbin sending these really pointed letters, Target, Amazon, Meta, Apple, Google, Microsoft.
Asking them to justify their hiring and firing, basically.
Much, and Amazon got singled out big time.
Okay, refresh my memory. The allegation was Amazon laid off tens of thousands, blamed Gen AI for it, and then immediately sponsored over 10,000 new H-1B hires in 2025, after already sponsoring 14,000 the year before.
That's the core of the allegation, yes.
Man, that sounds exactly like replacing workers, not supplementing them, which is supposed to be the point of the program.
That is precisely the question Congress is asking. And it wasn't just Amazon. Meta got called out, too. Remember their big year of efficiency? Layoffs hit a quarter of the workforce. Yeah. Then, boom, approval for over 5,000 H-1B hires.
Wow.
And Google was facing similar questions. Layoffs happening despite, quote, enjoying record profits.
So intense political heat. And that led to a really drastic response, didn't it? The executive order.
Immediate action. Bang, a new $100,000 fee for sponsoring any new H-1B employee, effective immediately.
$100,000
Yeah.
compared to what it was before, like a few thousand.
Exactly. Previously, it was somewhere between like $1,700 and $4,500, depending on various factors. So this is a massive jump.
What was the justification given?
The official line was that the program was being, and this is a quote, deliberately exploited to replace rather than supplement American workers with lower paid, lower skilled labor.
Okay. But the immediate impact, I mean, $100 per hire. Startups can't swallow that. Smaller tech firms definitely can't.
No way. It's a huge barrier. So the obvious consequence is concentrating even more of that global talent inside the big tech companies, the ones who can afford the fee. It potentially freezes out the smaller players.
Okay, so the labor fight is messy, political, and now incredibly expensive. But things get even more volatile when these AI products actually hit the real world and cause harm. That shifts us into digital safety and ethics.
Yeah, and this is heavy stuff. We have to talk about that Senate hearing. It was chilling. It focused on AI chatbots, specifically after that awful lawsuit involving a teenager who died by suicide.
Right, after months of talking to ChatGPT.
Months. And the father testified. It's hard to even say that the chatbot mentioned suicide 12,275 times in their conversations.
1,275 times.
Yeah.
That's unthinkable. How did OpenAI respond? Sam Altman.
Altman announced some big safety changes were coming. They're building an age prediction system. The idea is if there's any doubt about a user's age, it defaults them to an under 18 experience.
Okay, and for those under 18 users, especially if they show signs of crisis.
This is the really significant part. If the system detects suicidal ideation in an under 18 user, OpenAI plans to, quote, attempt to contact the user's parents, and if unable, will contact the authorities.
Wait, hold on. So OpenAI, a private tech company, is now planning to proactively contact parents or police based on chatbot interactions.
That's the plan they announced. We really need to pause on that. You've got a for-profit company essentially taking on the role of digital social worker, maybe even acting like proxy law enforcement.
And that's a massive societal shift, and it seems like it's being forced on them because their existing safety measures fail so tragically.
It's an unprecedented burden and a huge ethical jump.
And speaking of immense power and influence, the political climate in Silicon Valley itself sounds pretty intense, transactional even.
Oh, definitely. The sources describe it using language from VCs as basically a protection racket. Leaders are either staying completely silent on political issues or very actively, very publicly courting the current administration. Why? Fear. Fear of being targeted.
You have examples of that.
Well, the sources mentioned Tim Cook at Apple. Apparently, he skipped joining a presidential trip overseas. The very next day, there were threats of a new 25% tariff specifically on Apple products.
Wow. That's not subtle. It sounds like cause and effect.
It certainly reads that way. The transactional gears are almost visible, you know.
And didn't the sources mention Zuckerberg too? A shift in tone?
Yeah, reports of him becoming more, let's say, mega-friendly, and apparently blaming his former COO, Sheryl Sandberg, for past decisions about policing toxic content.
So it seems like tech leaders are cutting deals, prioritizing political access to protect their business interests above almost anything else.
That's the picture being painted. Political favor seems paramount. And this is actually fueling something else huge, media consolidation.
How so?
Look at Larry Ellison, Oracle's founder. He's suddenly becoming a massive media player. Oracle is pouring money into the new U.S. version of TikTok. And at the same time, his son, David Ellison, is closing a deal for Paramount CBS.
Paramount CBS.
And reportedly prepping a bid for Warner Brothers Discovery, which, you know, includes CNN.
Good grief. So, one family could potentially control the editorial direction across TikTok, CBS News, and CNN.
Potentially, yes. The sources point out that the regulatory environment seems to have just dissolved, allowing for this kind of consolidation that would have been blocked not long ago.
That's a staggering concentration of media power, potentially all aligned with securing political favor.
And one last point on the security front, sort of tying back to global politics. The Pentagon made a big move. They banned their tech vendors from using any personnel based in China for cloud services work.
Why the sudden ban?
It came after an investigation found Microsoft had been using engineers based in China. And these engineers were managed by what they called digital escorts, who were often apparently underqualified.
Leaving sensitive data vulnerable.
Exactly. Sensitive defense data potentially exposed. The Pentagon decided that risk, especially concerning a major cyber adversary like China, was just unacceptable.
Okay, wow. So we've covered the internal burnout, the intense political crossfire, the ethical nightmares, the security risks. Let's bring it back home. Back to the engineers and leaders. How do they navigate this? How do they put the human at the center, as we call it, and maybe reclaim some control?
Well, the advice coming from engineering leadership sources points to one key thing:
Mhm.
ownership. Engineering leaders can't just wait to be told the AI strategy anymore. They need to own it, drive it.
So the engineering strategy is the AI product strategy now.
Pretty much. They need to be the ones deciding the what, when, and why of building things because they're the ones who actually know how to execute it, how long it takes, what's realistic.
And that increased responsibility is blurring the lines between roles, isn't it?
Absolutely. We're seeing engineering managers stepping into roles that look a lot like staff engineers. And the rise of the product engineer is huge.
Meaning you need to be good at a lot of different things, that generalist skill set.
It's becoming a must-have, yeah. Fewer people are being asked to handle more complex, interconnected work. Being T-shaped or even more broadly skilled is
Yeah.
key.
So what's the ultimate takeaway for success then, looking ahead into 2025 and beyond? Is it just about mastering the tech?
Actually, no. The sources emphasize that the most crucial skills aren't the technical ones, ironically. It's the human stuff. Leadership, teamwork, real empathy, emotional intelligence, skills AI can't replicate.
Ah, the inviolable human element.
Exactly. When everything else gets automated or optimized, those fundamentally human abilities become incredibly valuable. That's where the real competitive edge will be.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what does it all mean? These 3 weeks in September, the sources show this incredible tension, right? AI is creating huge ethical problems. It's fueling political fights over jobs, and it's burning out the very people creating it.
Yeah,
That gap between the glossy promise of AI and the messy, difficult reality, it feels like it's reaching a critical point.
it really does. Which leaves us with a final thought, something for you, the listener, to chew on. Given everything we've just discussed, especially the consolidation of media platforms like TikTok, CBS, CNN, under oligarchs who seem to be playing a transactional political game, how do we think about information discovery in the future? If the places where younger generations especially get their news are controlled by figures seeking political favor, is the search for truth less about innovation now and more about just the whim